Thank you. Friends of the press, as you all know, I'm here in Moscow for my regular consultations with Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov. I also met Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov, who is my counterpart as the co-chair of the Intergovernmental Commission that we both head. We, of course, are still in the midst of our discussions. We have done one round of our talks. So I will give you both a readout on what we discussed as well as some issues which I think we will be taking forward immediately after this press conference. Now, before I come to that, it is important that I lay out the context for this visit. Normally, that would not be necessary, but these are unusual times. Let me begin by emphasizing that India and Russia have a long-standing partnership that has served both countries very well over many decades. This covers a range of practical cooperation in fields like trade, investment, energy, commodities, etc., as well as sensitive domains like defense, space, and nuclear. My objective in coming here today is to sit down with my Russian counterparts, Minister Lavrov and Deputy PM Manturov, and assess how we are doing. There are clearly challenges that we need to address, as well as prospects that we are exploring. For this stock-taking exercise, I am accompanied by senior officials from the Indian Ministries of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare, Petroleum and Natural Gas, Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Finance, Chemicals and Fertilizers, as well as Commerce and Industry. In the last few years, we, India and Russia, we have grappled with how to expand our bilateral trade and introduce more factors of long-term stability and growth. Some of these discussions are now yielding results, accelerated by the stresses that the global economy is currently experiencing, including as a result of the Ukraine conflict. Minister Lavrov and I have noted the significant growth in our bilateral trade this year and focused on how to make it more sustainable. We are naturally concerned at the trade imbalance, and I have raised with the Russian side how to address impediments that stand in the way of greater Indian exports. We reviewed the progress of our space and nuclear programs. It is also essential that our time-tested defense relationship continues to perform smoothly. Notably, our energy and fertilizer cooperation has been strengthening, and our achievements of the last few years have become a foundation to do more. Foreign Minister Lavrov, of course, has spoken about some of these issues in his remarks. We discussed ways to expand and diversify our cooperation, moving beyond traditional areas. Promotion of inter-regional cooperation has been a key priority for us, particularly with the Russian Far East. We also discussed enhancing connectivity, including through the international North-South transport corridor, as well as the Chennai-Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor. I updated Minister Lavrov and Deputy PM Manturov on India's flagship initiatives, including Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is self-reliant India, and Make in India, that can serve as platforms for a more contemporary economic relationship between our two countries. Now, it is natural that as foreign ministers, we exchange views on the international situation from our particular perspectives and vantage points. Obviously, the Ukraine conflict was a dominant feature, although we will continue to have discussions on it. Let me take this opportunity to lay out the Indian position on this matter. As Prime Minister Modi conveyed to President Putin in Samarkand in September, this is not an era of war. The global economy is simply too interdependent for a significant conflict anywhere not to have major consequences elsewhere. We are seeing growing concerns on energy and food security, emanate from the conflict that are coming on top of severe stresses created by 2 years of COVID. The global south, especially, is feeling this pain very acutely. India, therefore, strongly advocates a return to dialogue and diplomacy. We are clearly on the side of peace, respect for international law, and support for the UN Charter. Insofar as specific initiatives pertaining to issues like food grains and fertilizer shipments are concerned, or any other problem for that matter, India will be as helpful as we can be. Indeed, I would say that for any initiative that de-risks the global economy and stabilizes the global order, at this stage, India will be supportive. From our side, I also shared with Mr. Lavrov the Indian reading of recent trends in the subcontinent. You're all aware that countries have experienced serious economic difficulties. There are other factors of instability as well. Terrorism, including its cross-border manifestation, remains a major concern. Where the Indo-Pacific is concerned, both our nations have stakes in its progress and prosperity. We, as partners, highly value the centrality of ASEAN to the larger regional architecture. From the viewpoint of our respective interests, we exchange views about how the goals of the international community are best served, including in securing the global commons. Our talks also addressed a number of regional issues. On Afghanistan, we discussed how to continue our support for the people of Afghanistan, even as we urge Taliban to fulfill its international commitments. We are both members of various formats where the Afghan-related issues come up for review, and we will continue to be in close touch. I hope to discuss, of course, in the coming session, the prospects of the Iranian JCPOA, because India believes that the way forward must be found in the interests of global peace, security, and non-proliferation. I also expect a wider exchange of assessments on the current situation in the Middle East, what we call West Asia, including matters pertaining to Syria and Palestine. India today has a wide range of interests and a growing footprint. Some of this is expressed in terms of our UN responsibilities, like the chair of the Libya Committee, some in our traditionally close partnerships with Africa, and now increasingly our deeper economic involvement with many regions. The world is moving towards greater multipolarity through steady and continuous rebalancing, and that especially means a multipolar Asia. As prominent nations who have a positive history of working together, this will naturally influence the conversations between Russia and India. Our two countries are members of the G20, the BRICS, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, amongst others. How we work together in these formats is also on our agenda. You all know that India has assumed the chair of the SCO and will take over the presidency of the G20 in December. We strongly believe that the pressing concerns of the international community as a whole must be fully recognized and effectively addressed. The state of multilateralism, especially the working of the UN and its key organs, is today clearly wanting. Even as we focus on the immediate, the case for reformed multilateralism, including a reformed UN Security Council, is becoming difficult to deny. We welcome Russian support for India in that regard. In conclusion, let me say that we have had a morning of very open and productive exchanges. As I noted, we are still somewhat halfway through our discussions, but Minister Lavrov, allow me to thank you for your hospitality, for your welcome, and I'm confident that our talks will contribute to the further development of India-Russia cooperation.
Уважаемые коллеги, наступает время для ваших вопросов. Индийский телеканал ТВ-9. Прошу вас.
Здравствуйте, ministers. My question to Dr. Jaishankar. Minister, since you are accompanied by a large delegation of representatives from various ministries and departments, so do we take it as a signal that India's intent to continue or enhance cooperation with Russia in all spheres, despite all kind of challenges and so-called threats?
You know, I'm accompanied by a large and senior delegation, because we have a very substantial and time-tested relationship with Russia. As I explained in my remarks, in the last few years, under the guidance of our leaders, we have been trying to find ways of expanding this relationship, making it more durable, more sustainable, more balanced. So today, when I look back at the discussions both with Minister Lavrov and Deputy PM Manturov, we discussed areas where there's a natural convergence of interests between India and Russia. And we do so, when we do so, we not only serve our national interests, we actually today, as major G20 economies, we are actually helping to stabilize the world economy as well. And at this time of great global volatility and uncertainty, I think this is a very good thing that we are doing. So I'm very glad that today's discussions helped us to move forward on many issues, and I felt that the Russian side had a similar sentiment.
Информационное агентство ТАСС, пожалуйста.
Let me add to that with 4 points. One, it's important that the world not forget what is the situation in Afghanistan. Because today, I think it's not getting the attention that it deserves. There is a humanitarian situation, and at least where India is concerned, we have stepped forward by providing food, providing medicines, providing vaccines, and trying to find ways by which the Afghan people are supported in a very difficult phase of their history. Secondly, the international community, with good reason, has concerns about terrorism and terrorists who operate out of Afghanistan. There have been commitments which have been given in this regard. It's legitimate that the international community, especially the neighbors, today work together to ensure that that there is no terrorism threat that comes out of Afghanistan. Third, the commitments which have been made in respect of Afghanistan are covered by a UN resolution, a Security Council resolution 2593. It is important that those obligations are kept. And finally, we discuss Afghanistan in various formats. It is part of the tradition of our relationship, India and Russia, that in some of these formats we have cooperated. So we look forward to being present here during the Moscow format as well.
Телеканал RT. Прошу вас.
Hello, Donald Corder, Russia Today. This question is for Minister Jaishankar. India, of course, has been facing pressure from the West for its relations with Russia. So I'd like to ask basically a three-pronged question. The first is, what do you see as the intent of the West, specifically the United States, in pressuring India for these relations? What stance will India take in the future towards Russia as a result of this pressure? And what does New Delhi think about the Western calls to establish a price cap on Russian oil exports?
I can say a lot about India-Russia relations. I think the fact that I'm here today with a delegation to review our cooperation, to see how we can take it forward, to create a long-term sustainable basis, I think says most of all. For us, Russia has been a steady and time-tested partner, and as I said, any objective evaluation of our relationship over many decades would confirm that it has actually served both our countries very, very well. So if it has served my country very, very well for many decades, I think you can see the obvious interest and commitment I would have in keeping that relationship strong and steady. As regards, the oil supply issue, first of all, there is a stress on the energy markets. Okay. This is a stress which has been created by a combination of factors. But as today the world's third largest consumer of oil and gas, a consumer where the levels of income are not very high, it is our fundamental obligation to ensure that the Indian consumer has the best possible access on the most advantageous terms to international markets. And in that respect, quite honestly, we have seen that the India-Russia relationship has worked to advantage. So if it works to my advantage, I would like to keep that going.